Good afternoon, everybody. It's a Monday. It's Axon Bulletin, and me and Russell are the Monday Club. The only club where you can have a couple of pints on a Monday afternoon and get a chippy tea and nobody judges you whatsoever. Russell, how are you doing today?
I'm alright, mate. It is the day after, yet again on a Monday Club. It's not a great result to be talking about again. The dust has settled a bit, and I'm feeling probably as much apathy as the Celtic team were yesterday today, mate.
Before we get into yesterday's game, we're nearly at 10,600 YouTube subscribers. So if there's anybody in the comments whatsoever, please subscribe and get us over that mark. I mean, we've actually got more subscribers than a lot of Premier League football teams, which is quite amazing. So we need to get more subscribers. We're now averaging about 3 broadcasts a day, and they range from everything from parent team podcasts to Celtic podcasts. There's something for anybody, for everybody there. So we need to talk about your La Chic Belgique tracksuit top today. Where's this one coming from?
I'll be honest to you, mate. I typed in into Google Adidas Anthem jacket, because that's what the Sweden one was from years ago. And up popped this brand new from Trade Sports or something, £7.99.
£7.99.
Reduced for 65 quid. I was like, because they only had it in excess left. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I still am an extra small. So, happy days, man.
£7.99. You sure it's not made in Turkey?
No, definitely not.
Sure it's not one of the Turkish fakes, no?
I double check everything, my man. I checked the rest of the stock on the site, and everything else was all massively priced and that. So the job's a good one, man. Just a bargain.
But that's the half a bargain, £7.50. That's cracking top. I like it. I do like it.
Sure.
I think we probably need to actually speak about. Well, I'll start speaking about it. After Thursday night, there was a lot of stuff happened after the Glenn Kamara thing happened on Thursday night. And what's actually happened over the last couple of days, we've seen instances and where Scottish society's got a long way to go if we think that we're not racist. Because when the racist train pulled into the station, there was quite a few folk jumped on the wrong carriage. And it doesn't matter, there's no good racism and there's only bad racism. There's no good racism, and you can't choose which side, what's good and what's bad. It's all bad, and we need to get on. We need to get on with that. Look, if you're anti-racist, then you're all in. It doesn't matter. You can't choose sides. You can't choose what's good and what's bad. It is all bad. And if you're going to what was it the young ones call it now? Virtual signal. Is that what you call it when you're online boasting about, shouting about, you get what I mean, when you're shouting about racism and sexism and stuff like that. You need to practice what you preach.
Absolutely.
You just can't say, there's no room for whataboutery and racism, and there's no room for taking sides in racism. It's all bad. That's it, bottom line, and we need to move, and that needs tackled, and we need educated on that. Anytime anybody sees anything racist, you call it out and we kick it out. You didn't take sides. It doesn't matter who it happens to. It doesn't matter who it is. It is utterly deplorable, unacceptable. And I'm talking about the whole of Scottish society here. There's been a couple of times over the weekend I've had to look at myself in the mirror and go, wait a minute, what kind of bus am I on here? And we've all got to look in the mirror and make sure. It's what John Barnes spoke about earlier on, it's an unconscious bias. That's it. We have got that. Scottish society still got that, and we really have to move on and re-educate ourselves. So, anything you want to add, Russell, to that? My wee improv rant there.
No, I absolutely love it. I think you're absolutely right. There's no football team that that you can support that would separate your racial views. You've got to be firmly on the fence that it's wrong, and anyone that's not on that side of it, I strongly urge them to reconsider their thought process. 2021, I'm lucky enough to have had a lot of friends over the years of different ethnic backgrounds, and it's something that I just completely abhor. I hate it, and yeah, absolutely, I do agree with you. I think there's a lot of self-righteous people out there that maybe contradict themselves on certain game days, or match days, or in certain other environments, of course, as well, that really should practice what they preach. And it's not always about a certain strong message. It's about taking responsibility as well for your actions. I think that's really important. It's just as important as sending out the message that we are actually taking responsibility for what it is we're saying. Other times, when maybe, as you say, a more susceptible point in time where, we could be a wee bit of a looser tongue or things like that, it's important to take a responsibility of yourself and, stay on the right train, as you said, Kev, because there's no place for it anymore.
There isn't any place for it, and when we have got to tackle it head on, and that's even from. I'll be quite honest here. A lot of folks says I went doing a socialist wormhole last Monday, which is fair play. But I didn't want any fascists or racists in the Celtic support, bottom line. But I know there is fascists and racists in the Celtic support. And unfortunately, over the last couple of days, there's been a lot of petty mindedness. Also came into the Celtic support, which we need to highlight and kick out as well. We've got to move on. So it's as you say, it's 2021. If you see racism, you kick it out. As you say, Russell, we're all one human race. That's it. We are all one human race, and everybody is welcome on this planet. And I've just said, unless you're a fascist or a racist, that is. So let me just clarify. So I've just contradicted myself. So there we go. Right, let's talk about that game yesterday. Right. What was your thoughts?
I think it's really easy to blame the management team and all that this season. We've done that all year. If I'm completely honest, how big a change did we expect John Kennedy to make, considering he has been part of the good times, as I've said before, for balance, but he is 100% part of the problem this season. And that's been proven since he took over. There is a thought process that perhaps he's not wanting to rock the boat, and I kind of get that, because he doesn't want to make any crazy decisions that make it look really obvious he's not good enough for the job. But for me, the players need to take a huge responsibility as well. Surely it's in your instinct as a footballer, and you're on that pitch yesterday, that Rangers were happy with the draw and were there for the taking. Rangers, a lot of them, I think, were out on their feet to a point. I think they got the goal and went, all we were trying to do is protect the unbeaten records here. And for Celtic not to be trying to play further up the pitch, just a wee bit more intensity. I actually thought Celtic, they were very much out of ideas. And that impulsiveness that we spoke about earlier on in the season, when Neil Lennon often relies on just moments of magic for players as opposed to coaching them through it. Those players don't look like they've got as many moments of magic left in them than what they perhaps have delivered over the last 5 or 6 years. Worryingly, I actually thought Rangers, although when they went forward it was far less often, I actually thought they were giving me a more of a gut feeling. They had more of a cutting edge than us. I know the penalty should have been a penalty, but there's no point in dwelling on that. We knew those decisions would go against us anyway, as far as I'm concerned.
No, I do think there is a reason to dwell on it, because once again, I've actually defended Willie Collum at times, just saying he was a poor referee. But yesterday, he didn't even see it. He was standing behind a Rangers player. He didn't see it. He made a call on what he actually saw, what he didn't see. And yesterday, for me, it was blatant cheating. Blatant cheating. It wasn't even a bad decision. It was a blatant cheat. For me, it's a penalty kick. He didn't need to make contact. The tackle was rash and uncontrolled. It's a foul. It's a penalty kick. But for me, for any other league in Europe gives that as a penalty.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think obviously we were talking about decision making and things like that on Thursday when the Rangers game was on and they had 2 red cards against them, and obviously I've seen a lot of Twitter posts saying, this is what happens, when it's not Scottish referees. And I'm not a huge conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but you've got to call it as you see it. And Wilcombe didn't do that yesterday. We've got to call it as we see it on here. And there's no realistic reasoning you can give him not to give that penalty. That is stonewall, as you say, in any league, any European competition in the world. A lot of people worry about, did it actually trip him? Did it not? It's my belief that in the modern day football, it's all about contact. He made illegal contact with Edouard, no two ways about it, and a clean goal scoring opportunity. It's stonewall.
You don't need to make contact. The tackle was reckless and the ball wasn't there to be won. Yep. The ball was away when he dived in. So you didn't need to make contact. It's a reckless challenge in the box. It's a penalty kick. Any other league in Europe that gets given. For me, I'm going to go back to a couple of things that you says, that we're like a damp firework that you find in the hut, like the big berther that fell out the box, and you go, get in there. I'm going to light this in the daylight and see what actually happens with Big Bertha here. So you light it, and it goes bang, bang, bang a couple of times, and it just fizzles out and just collapses in a bit of gunpowder on your grass. That's Celtic. We look like we can be, I'm going to swear here, it looks like we can be arsed at certain times. Then we just go, I just can't really be bothered. We're playing with a handbrake on. We're completely playing with a handbrake on. And it's like, we've got the Scottish Cup to defend, but it looks like the players are like me. I've checked out for this season. And the players have checked out. They get to a certain point and they just go, we're not actually bothered. I mean, we controlled that game yesterday. I don't think it is as bad a performance as what folk made it. I kind of thought the guys that were on post-game yesterday were quite a bit negative. We controlled that game. We had numerous missed chances that we should have won. We let the champions off the hook. We should have battered them yesterday. And a team that's operating at more at 60% capability would have battered Rangers yesterday. We didn't, because we just didn't seem to be bothered. We just didn't seem to be absolutely bored that we could actually do it. When we got to 65 minutes, we were going, we know that we haven't got the fitness here. Let's just hope we didn't get beat. We might nick something. Then we get on to...
That's what I took from it as well. That's exactly... I felt that Rangers definitely knew in the second half that 1-1 was actually quite a decent result to be getting out of there, and if they struck one on the counter, then that would have been a real added bonus. But really, I think they'd settled for 1-1. I think they probably decided that at half-time. I got that vibe as well.
I think we get that vibe because the team's mentally tired and physically tired. The team's gone for this season. And we've got at least, when you look on that park yesterday, you've got Eddie, who's not going to be there. Moy, lone player. Laxalt, lone player. Let's go through Scott Bain, who is going to be... If we go for the back, Scott Bain's going to be there next season. Kenny, who really, really annoyed me all day yesterday. I mean, Rangers won the trouble on us, and he gives away that corner kick. As soon as he gives away that corner kick, in the Mr. Bean fashion that he gave it away, you're like, they're scoring for this. Because we can't keep Wayne's out of close when it comes to corner kicks. And as soon as he gave away that corner, I was watching the game with my dad, and I went like that to my dad. I says, he's scoring, we're losing a goal for this. Because that just sums up our season. That
says more about us than it does Kenny, to be fair, because you're going to give away corners that are maybe a bit ridiculous all season. That's going to happen. That is football. These things can happen. But what you can play a role in is how you defend them.
Russell, he gave away a corner kick when he was 40 yards for a rain goal.
Yeah, I know. But you can lose corner kicks, though, in bizarre fashion throughout the season. What I'm saying is, you're going to concede a number of corner kicks every single week. The one thing you can do, though, is learn how to defend them on the training ground day in, day out. And whatever the freakish the way that a corner can arrive. And I've seen loads of different reasons for corner kicks. And I agree, it was a Mr. Bean moment, you can say that. But the fact of the matter is, it's how you then defend that. The corner could have been a legit corner that came. As far as I'm concerned, we were still conceding from it anyway, no matter how we gave away that corner kick. That's what the real issue is. Do you know what I mean?
That's been our issue all season, and I can't remember if it was Anthony or Paul that says that you couldn't get a Rizzler under Christopher Ayer's feet when he actually jumped at that point. Kenny again loses Morelos and allows him to actually take the chance into the back post. But for me, again, I'm just absolutely fuming that we gave away the corner kick in the first place, because he's 40 yards from his own goal. He panics and humps the ball out the park. What was he trying to do? What was he actually trying to do? We've had Kenny now since January, and for me, I haven't seen anything better than Anthony Ralston in him. And again, I'm not putting that down to the guy. The guy's a decent EPL team, but what I think's actually up with him, he's just plasticined and moulded into the mentality of that dressing room, which is, we can't be arsed. And he knows that he's not going to be there next season. He knows that the 5 months in an utter shammy a season at the club that he's in is not going to affect that he's going to end where his career is going to go. He's going to end up in the Championship. He knows that anyway. And playing poorly for 4 months in Scotland's not going to affect him.
I think there is that. I think you're saying about John Joe Kennedy is sort of moulded into that Celtic mentality. I also think, whether they admit it or not, there is a huge crisis of confidence at Celtic right now as well, in the playing squad. I think they just look, as I say, there's no moment of magic there. When they get the ball, they're not ruthless anymore. They've not got that courage, and it's a lack of belief. And I remember we were talking about Laxalt earlier on in the season. He actually had a good game yesterday. But Laxalt seemed to dip after his first sort of 5 or 6 games, even though the results weren't particularly good when he started out. His confidence seemed to dwindle and go into the sort of tying in with the rest of the squad as well after that. And yeah, Kenny just seems to have picked up the, whether you want to call it can't be arsed, or whether it's lack of self-belief, maybe it's a combination of both. But yeah, he seems to have picked up that infection a lot quicker than even Laxalt did at the start of the season, you know?
Well, aye. We haven't had the dead cat bounce, which sometimes bringing in a new manager or a change of voice in the dugout actually brings, and it's quite noticeable that, or you can maybe now get to the point that maybe John Kennedy had more of an input into Neil Lennon's Celtic than we gave him credit for, or discredit for, as we move forward, because he seems to be going with the tried and tested, and nothing seems to be changing. The only thing that changed yesterday, that it took 80 minutes to make a sub, which was quite baffling when you had Ryan Christie on the park again, being a waste of a jersey. And we're talking about players that have checked out. Yeah, that's another player that's checked out. Ryan Christie's checked out. His eyes on 3 games for Scotland in the summer and getting a move to England. He's going into the last year of his contract. And has he ever turned up for us against Rangers? I don't think he has.
No, I couldn't agree more. I thought he was so quiet yesterday. It was unbelievable. And not for the first time in a Glasgow derby as well, as he been posted missing. I think it was JP yesterday who said the brilliant line on, if his head's out the door, then he can, his feet can follow, something like that. Because I don't see any future for Ryan Christie. I think he is one of the players that we've known for a long time that has maybe made noises that he wanted to leave, and then maybe the line Lennon was referring to. Some moments of brilliance from him over the past couple of seasons. But I think, with a year to go, we're not going to put in an amazing offer to try and retain him, I don't think, after his disappointing return of form this year. I appreciate he'll probably be quite high in the assist column, but he starts nearly every single game. He's got maybe 12 assists, 13 assists. What's that in 50 starts, 45 starts? Someone will know. But it seems like he starts almost every game. And yeah, there seems to be a lack of willingness to take him off as well. And yet you contrast and compare with a far better player in far better form. And at every opportunity he is taken off. I don't even do Turnbull bingo on the Twitter anymore because I was going to run out of chomps, mate, because there was going to be a sub every twice a week. So it's sad what's going on there. I don't get the Ryan Christie persistence, especially if we all know he wants to leave and he's not going to be there next season. We're running the risk of just only cheesing off someone who probably is a lot more likely to still be there next year. Why do what you can to annoy him when there's other options there to be taken off that were more glaringly obvious, first and foremost, on a footballing level. And then secondly, with one eye on next season, I think Celtic are running the risk right now of cheesing David Turnbull off, or at least cheesing his agent off enough for him to tell David Turnbull, you shouldn't be putting up with that, by the way. And that's why you're not in the Scotland squad, because the Scotland manager doesn't think you can last 90 minutes.
I'm going to disagree with that, mate. Again, I thought it was a strange substitution yesterday. I don't think Turnbull should have went off yesterday. I do feel in some of the games where he has been substituted that he has deserved to be substituted. But yesterday there was not one of them. I mean, you look at yesterday, we ended up with James Forrest and David Turnbull, Lee Griffiths up front. In the summer, we signed Albion Ayeti, who is nowhere to be seen. And as Paul pointed out to me before we came on air, has never actually started a game against Rangers. Our box office big money signing has never actually started in the biggest game in the domestic calendar. What does that say? What does that say about the recruitment? It's
bizarre.
I mean, yesterday, when you look at the subs yesterday, the players coming on, James Forrest was basically came on and basically was told, go and try and create something.
Yep.
Big Tam, Aussie Tam came on, go and try and create something. You bring on Lee Griffiths with 3 minutes to go and hit a 25-yard arsehole winder into the top corner, Chris. Lee. It's rubbish. Absolute rubbish. These players never came on with a tactical ploy. It was a ploy going, go on and do something for us because nothing's happening. Nothing's going on. And it's almost as if the management have checked out as well. Now, management know that they're not going to be there next season. And they're going, right, let's just get us over the line and see what actually happens. And as I keep on saying, we've got a Scottish Cup to defend. And the club is just apathetic. Really, really apathetic. And we need somebody now, whether it's the teammate, whether it's off the field or on the field, to grab those players by the scruff of the neck and go, want to ken something, eh? You can get a bit of dignity out of this season by winning the Scottish Cup. Let's get a rocket up your arse and let's start doing something. But I think we're done. I think we're completely done. And if anybody gets us in a cup tie, they'll fancy us. They'll fancy to take us.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. I mean, I was on here 3 weeks ago being all positive and saying, look, or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, saying, like, let's go out and win the Scottish Cup, you know? Let's try and be positive. There's been a change in mind. There's a tournament that's going to go ahead now. It's there to be won. Let's beat Rangers twice and win the Scottish Cup. And you can't help but feel that yesterday's, as you say, I think, performance of apathy, which is what it was, just suggests to us that it's too far gone now. The spread throughout the squad, whatever this malaise is, there's no, you just don't see how. What is it to win the Scottish Cup? 4 matches, 5 matches, 4?
4.
Can you see Celtic? Because remember, whoever they're playing, it's their biggest game sort of thing. It's huge for them. They're pumped up, they're fired up. It's a one-off chance against a team that's they know they're for the taking. They're going to be playing with full of adrenaline, motivation. and with confidence against Celtic, I just don't see Celtic being able to pull out that performance 4 times between now and the end of the season in that competition, and amongst what will probably inevitably be further drop points in league matches between now and then as well. How are you going to pull these 4 games out of nowhere? It won't be based on league form. I still expect that to be up and down in the final 6. So I don't see any way Celtic pulling 4 big performances out the bag. And if they do, I would love to be wrong, because I've tried to be positive about all this. But yesterday was our first attempt at bringing some sort of redemption this season, not solving anything, but giving hope again for the summer and maybe making us all feel better. And to be honest, Rangers, after playing 120 minutes on Thursday and only playing for a draw at Celtic Park, for me was a shoo-in for those boys to go and take them to the cleaners, and they fell way short.
They did fall away. We did fall away way short, and I think the question that we've got to ask ourselves is, how did the club get us up for this? How did the club do it? And basically, the fact is they didn't take the action against Lennon, like by paying him off earlier. And we're sleepwalking this season. We're sleepwalking to the end of the season. For a lot of us, the end of the season can't come quick enough.
Yep.
But we need some positivity to go forward with. And even then, we're now getting. I don't mind the silence, but the silence is eating at certain people. The silence is eating at certain sections of the support. And we're now. There's a lot of us now having doubts. A lot of people now having doubts that we'll make the right choice going forward. You listened to Tony yesterday when we're talking about the Man City, maybe Fergal Harkin and Enzo Maresca. And Tony makes a great point. He says, well, Maresca, he's an under-23 manager who's been an assistant at a couple of places. Where has he got the CV to take over Celtic? You've got guys who actually say, where's Eddie Howe's CV to take over at Celtic? And we're now in that apathetic point where whoever comes in is not going to pick up the support. You look at the numbers of the team, that the players yesterday. John Joe Kenny's not going to be there next season. Christopher Ayer is not going to be there next season. You've had Stale Stapolkin, the Norwegian manager, actually saying that he's got to leave Scottish football because he's developing bad habits because it's too easy. Yeah. I tend to agree with him. I think Ayer has went into, like a lot of them, has went into neutral and is now just coasting from now to the end of the season. Laxall is not going to be there next season. If we've got any idea of getting rid of Scott Brown, I think yesterday showed that we can't get rid of Scott Brown at this precise moment in time.
Definitely.
David Turnbull's going to be there next season. Callum McGregor's going to be there next season. So when you look at the subs that came on yesterday, Lee Griffiths, there's always a question mark over Lee Griffiths at Celtic. Eddie checked out possibly in the last summer. Moy, are we going to keep Moy? Probably not, because of the financial implications of trying to get him full time. And actually, has he done enough for us to take him full time? For me, he's too inconsistent.
I happen to think if the team was performing better, I think considering the season we've had, his numbers are good. Goal scoring numbers are very good. I think it's 15 he was up to yesterday. Mm-hmm. He doesn't start every game. He's played a couple of different positions as well, and the team's been crap. I happen to think if we'd had a good season this year, if other players had played at a better level, I think he could have been 20 goals. I don't think Celtic will keep him, because he, again, is just going to be associated with what has been a disastrous season. I happen to think, though, he is good enough to be part of what we do next year if we did keep him. I think he needs better management, he needs better players around him, and he needs played more regularly. And he would play more regularly, because if he was playing in a better vibe of a team, or a team with more confidence, I think he'd be scoring even more goals. I think he's I think he's got a real eye for goal. Maybe not necessarily as an out-and-out striker, but he's always struck me as someone who's a good finisher. He could be the guy that, sort of gets you the sort of Commons, I think, sort of levels of goals, 25, 30. I think there was one season Commons got a lot more than that, but in general, 25, 30, I think he could probably get you that for a few years, but he's going to be tarred with the brush of this season. If he couldn't get in this Celtic side regularly this season, Kev, then it's going to be hard to convince the board or the new CEO to part with £5 million for him in the summer.
It is going to be difficult, but then again, that's going to be up to what we expect to be a director of football to come in and whoever's getting interviewed for a director of football role, or whoever's been given the director of football role, we don't know, will be watching that side. He will know like confidential details of how much it's going to get guys like Moy, Laxalt. He's going to know like what's going to happen in the summer, who's going to go, who's going to stay, how much money we're likely to have. So whoever is going to be the director of football will already be thinking ahead. And he might have a look at Moy's goal return and go, there is a player there. If we get a dressing room with a better attitude, then we're going to get something out of that player. And you might take him. You might take them. Now, the byline is, I'll come back to the byline, but Brian Conway, 60. Maresca has a better CV than Lennon had when he was appointed first time around. I think that's true. But we're going to mention John Barnes twice on this podcast. What Neil Lennon had was the Celtic background. Maresca wouldn't tick a lot of the boxes because he hasn't got that Celtic background for a lot of the support. And that is a sad thing to say in 2021. It is a real sad thing to say in 2021 that this is the reason that the lazy options like Roy Keane are getting bandied about, because they're supposedly Celtic-minded. And we've got to move away as a support. Maresca probably has got a better CV than what Lennon had, but then if you sit on the fence, which I'm chaffing sitting on this fence with him, I can see where Anthony Hargett is coming for, but I can see where Brian Conway's coming for as well. I'm right on that fence, and it's sore, sitting right on that fence with somebody like Maresca. But I can see... Are the fans looking for what the fans looking for? Are they looking for a coaching team, or are they looking for a showbiz front name?
I think we need to get a wee bit realistic though, as well, and say Maresca has a better CV than Neil Lennon did first time round. Neil Lennon first time round didn't win the league first season and won it the second season with an amazing comeback. And don't take anything away from him on that. I don't think. You get the first season not to win the league next year. I think we need that League One. So I don't think Lennon's first time round being appointed should at any point be the parameter by which we then base, our opinion on the next manager. I mean, put it this way, Maresca, let's think for a more positive thing. When Brendan Rodgers took over, his CV is 10 times, 20 times better than what Enzo Maresca's is. Is that not a more positive period in the club's history to be looking at that we should be striving to achieve? So if you look at it that way, forget it. For me, I've said this already and I stand by it. Maresca would have more backing if we got the job done this year. And we still could have got the job done this year if we got rid of Neil Lennon at a decent time and got in a safe pair of hands at the end of the season or whatever, or if Lennon had just, done his job right or whatever, and the players hadn't capitulated the way they did. But if we'd won 10, an appointment like Maresca gets the benefit of the doubt, shall we say, with an openness and you're on such a crest of a wave as well. There's just such a positive vibe. It's going to get that back, and now Celtic have completely been the catalyst in their own downfall, because now their next appointment needs to be tempered with demands that are going to be a lot more impatient from the Celtic fans next season than what they have been this year.
And that's one thing we're going to need. We are going to need patience. I noticed some comments yesterday saying that Rangers weren't that far in front of Celtic if you look at the last two games when we have dominated for certain periods. But then when things have swung certain ways, you don't need to play well. When you have a look at the season Rangers are having, you just kind of knew that they were going to equalise yesterday, and you just kind of knew that we weren't going to have a clean sheet because that's the way it swung. I get we could improve with better coaching, and that's where we need to go. But we need, if you bring in somebody like Maresca, he's going to need the Steven Gerrard free year. He's going to need the Gerrard free year until you actually get a team. And are the Celtic support going to be patient enough to actually give him those 3 seasons? I would very much doubt a lot of the Celtic support would. Again, we're going to have to go back to apathy. And that we didn't sack Neil Lennon earlier than we did actually screams off the board writing this season off. They just writ it off. And this
no, early to do that, though.
I know.
That drives me nuts that even you're saying that, because I think you're right. That actually drives me mad that you're saying that. Do you know that? How can you just write it off? How can you go, well, it looks like the game's a bogey. We'll just stick with him for now. And unless things get really, really, really bad, then we'll let him go. Come on. That can't be like how a big club thinks. We must be the only big club, or we must be the only one club since 1888 that acts like that. Honestly, if that is right, and I've got a horrible feeling you could be right, that's shocking.
That is shocking, and we've got to maybe, as a support, right? I was listening to another podcast the other day, and they were talking about, I'm going to go American football here again, and they were talking about New England Patriot fans who have seen a decade of dominance under Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and last season was the first season that they didn't make the playoffs. And the New England Patriot fans were going absolutely mental. And it's a bit like Yankees fans in baseball. Once you've actually been to the top, it's difficult to readjust to not the natural order but of where you actually are. Yes, like you look at the Yankees in baseball, they still compete, but they've not been anywhere near the World Series for years now. You look at the Patriots; they never competed last season, and never got to the playoffs. So their fans are all up in arms. We're coming off a period that I'll probably never see again domestically. My 4 greatest seasons watching Celtic, probably up there with the Martin O'Neill years, of dominance that we'll probably never see again. And I think a lot of Celtic fans are going to maybe need to taper their expectations of what we're going to get in the summer and where we're going to be at this point next season. I think if we're sitting here next season challenging, I'll be really, really happy. If all things stay the same, like with Rangers, if Gerrard's still there, if they've pushed on, if they've got into the Champions League, if we're up there challenging at this point next season, I think we've got to be happy with that with the size of the rebuild. And we've just got to accept, by the way, I've seen the greatest period of domination I'm ever going to see. Now, let's move on. Let's accept the challenge of what's actually in front of us.
It's not going to go down that well, though, is it?
I
get you. I get what you're saying. You've been very reasonable, Kev. You've been very reasonable. I also happen to think, looking back can be very, very dangerous for clubs to always do that nostalgia trip and look at, but look what we have done. It's very much about, yes, it is going to be a new start, but you need to hit that start off, the best way imaginable, the best way possible, and to get the fans on side and then enter the next era of an amazing 3-4 year of dominance that we've never seen before since the Brendan Rodgers era, and then or the Invincibles era, and you'll talk about all that. I think as well, we need to also look at the basic facts right now. Barring a really unlikely sequence of events, if whoever wins the SPL next year qualifies automatically for the Champions League group stage. So it's great to say, yes, we might need to be patient, we might give it 3 years. But in those 3 years, the competition is stretching further and further ahead because they're getting gifted 35, 40 millions from TV deals. So that project that you started 1 year ago is actually manifested into a brand, an even harder task. And in 3 years, if you're setting 3 years aside, but the other team is bringing in revenues that they've never brought in ages and continually to put their foot down, when does it ever end? For me, right now, whilst it might be a rebuild, I still think it is not over and done that Rangers now enter a period of domination. In fact, I think the League Cup exit, I actually thought of Frailties on Thursday night. Not that we're going to go into that too much. It's a Celtic State of Mind, and I prefer to be a Celtic fan and talk about Celtic things. But
you're prepared to be a Celtic fan.
No, sorry, I didn't. Sorry, no, I don't know what I said. I'm first and foremost a Celtic fan, and I like to I prefer to be a Celtic fan, not prepared, that sort of thing, rather than an anti-Rangers fan. But I thought on Thursday you looked at their frailties, their vulnerabilities, and their old ways coming right back into them. I mean, the racism stuff aside, that's important, and I've said that. But their discipline on the pitch when they realised it wasn't going their way, they were there for the taking still this year if Celtic could actually laid a glove on them. It's my belief they'll still be the majority of that group the same next year, but we've allowed them the experience of winning a trophy, albeit that. But on Thursday they were already champions of Scotland and they crumbled, as far as I'm concerned, when the pressure was on. Quick turnaround this year and play and get the right players in, the right decisions made, and get someone who knows how to do it, who's going to capture the imagination. That can be turned back in a row in one season. Then you can bank that 30 million Champions League check in at the bank as well. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be thinking realistically, Kev, as well, about 3-year projects. We could be getting left behind if that's the case as well.
Is it? I mean, we have a look at... We're conditioned now. We're absolutely conditioned now to say money is everything in football, right? And you have a look at the teams that have papped us out the Champions League. They've got a fraction of your budget. You look at Rangers' budget compared to ours. Like, I think your wage bill's maybe £10 million higher than Rangers at this precise moment in time. That'll probably level out because there's no danger that we're paying any bonuses out this year anyway. So that's going to level out. And I don't get that. They get £30 million and it gives them a better hangway. But then you look at us. We've made an absolute mess of things this season. So it can happen if you've got a team that's a team that's a sum more than its parts. If you've got a decent manager, and this is where a decent football department. And this is where we fell down in the last 18 months. Our football department is basically exploded like one of the big pussy spots that you get on your forehead, or on that telly program. What's it? Horrible Bodies or something like that. That's what it's like. That's what it's like. It's just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and somebody just went, I think I'll just squeeze it, and now we're cleaning up the mess. And we could be cleaning up the mess for a couple of seasons. You listen to the Celtic Soul podcast by Andrew Mullen. Andrew Mullen will be listening. Hi, Andrew. With David Lowe. Now, David Lowe is a close confidant and friend of Neil Lennon. And over the podcast, he says, on the podcast that he done with Andrew at the weekend, and this came directly from Lennon. There's no point in hiding on this. There's no point denying that. There's no point David denying that either. 6 players chucked it down tools at the start of the season. 6 players. And it's easy enough. It's easy enough to point the ones who have down tools. But it would be very difficult for a manager to handle that. And I reckon our dressing room's been poisoned this season. I reckon when you hear the snippets coming out from the manager downwards, our dressing room hasn't been a nice place to be.
I agree.
And that's not the pressure of 10, that's just the pressure of modern football. That's just a pressure of players not wanting to be there anymore, who were promised. It goes back to what you said last week. They were promised the dream. And now they're getting told, no, we need you to stay for one more year. And they're going, we're not interested in that dream. We're more interested in moving on.
I think that's right.
And I think we've actually seen the downside. We've seen the downside of that cycle ending, and now we're going into the next cycle. And it's very difficult to be excited about the next cycle because we don't know what it's going to look like. If Celtic were to announce tomorrow what it's going to look like, do you think we would get the bounce? Do you think the players would get the bounce?
I think it's too far gone this season. I think it's a bounce purely for the fans. I think the season ticket renewals will get a bounce. I think Twitter might see a bounce. And I know I talk about Twitter quite a lot on this, but I think you do realise how important these aspects are now in modern football. And that's where you really see amazing debate on shows like this and on places like Twitter. And I think they would all get a bounce if that decision was made. From the players' point of view, I believe there's a malaise, as I say, that I think has taken over it. I think John Kennedy has proven now he was as much part of the problem as Neil Lennon in terms of maybe just on a footballing base. I think John Kennedy comes over a really good guy, and he maybe wouldn't make controversial comments, or he might not give the hairdryer treatment to players that will upset them and things like that as much. So he might have a better influence that way. I think footballing-wise, I think it looks very much same old, same old. In fact, I can't believe we're back to not playing the diamond midfield two up top. I thought it worked so much better, but anyway, that's a completely different argument. I can't see between now and the end of the season anything turning around that group of players because, like you just said, there was 6 want-aways. By my reckoning, that means there's still 5 in there.
Let's see. Will we have wild guesses? Will we have wild guesses here to see who the 6 players were? Well, right, David Lowe says he would never sign a French player again. So let's count Eddie, Cham and Julien as 3 who have down tools for the manager. You've got Christopher Ayer, who has now been in Scotland for 5 years. He's been in Scotland for 5 years. He's internationals managers telling him that he has to move on, and he will have an agent telling him it's time to move on as well. I think Christopher Ayer, of the players who we can think that we can claim that have down tools. We're not saying that they have. We're not saying that they have. Aye. Well, as Celtic Rap quite rightly says, Lennon always blames other.
He does.
Lennon always blames other, and all managers seem to blame other folk. Producer Paul comes in and says, anyone claiming Ayer has down tools is deluded. I 100% agree with that. Of the players who we're going to claim have down tools, Christopher Ayer hasn't down tools.
No, has he? Heck. But I get where you're coming from. That might be one of the ones that Lennon was alluding to. Because remember, Lennon made this comment about, that they want out in August. And it may well be that Chris Ayer had said he wanted to leave then. So... I don't. But think on the park, has he? Heck, I mean, he's been inspiring at times in a season of no inspiration.
For me,
a couple others.
He's only one for me that can actually look himself in the mirror and go, I actually tried at least 99%. Maybe not 100, but I tried at least 99% here. I've got a bit of professional pride about myself.
Tom Rogic.
Nah.
He was going to go to Qatar.
He was, but I think it was Celtic that were pushing that. But I think what we're seeing by Tam is just...
He's down tools 5 years ago. He's never picked up the tools. He just does what he wants.
He picks up the tool. He picks up the tools occasionally when he wants. I reckon a Dutch-speaking Frenchman who's now playing in Germany down tools.
Yes.
I think he was another one. I think somebody whose best pal Stuart Armstrong has probably had his mind turned this season, and I did say that earlier on. That
I think he believes his own hype. I think, and something. I think I almost feel. I mean, just for a wee bit of balance, I think Christie gets it tight. You can't help but create narratives with players like him, though. And one of the things with Christie is that is so frustrating is when he's trying things and all that. They're that ridiculous. Some of the shots that go so far over the bar, or they're so why are you doing that there? There was other options available. They're so standoutish, if you know what I mean. He's up there to be shot at, isn't he, basically, for the mistakes he makes. And it's so easy to create narratives of him. I've been told that by other folk, but he definitely did make noises to leave the club. He's certainly, like he said, that he wanted to leave. And I think the way he plays does suggest that, his head has been turned and he's put his sort of what I think, as I say, if his head's out the door, then take his feet with him.
Take his feet with him.
That was a JP classic on Sunday.
That was a good one, eh? I
absolutely loved that. I thought it was really good.
So we've got the Frenchmen free, a French-speaking Dutchman, a Chukter, and Christopher Ayer. so that's the six that we reckon that Neil Lennon was talking about after Fenerbahce. So, and then what else you've got? Ball and golly shows that there's no discipline at the club, and I got shot down for saying that at the time when he decided to go to Spain for a date.
And you wonder how far deeper it runs as well. This might sound a wee bit off topic, but I always tend to go off on a tangent for one of my random comparisons. We've not picked up on it, right? And just to show, like you say, about the lack of discipline in the squad, the lack of effort, the lack of mojo, Scott Bain yesterday's laughing when he nearly makes the biggest muck-up ever, when he boots the ball off the defender. Or the Rangers player, in fact it was, sorry. Remember when he's tried to clear it?
Aye. Mind you, I was laughing as well.
He starts laughing. Let's just contrast and compare with the goal at the other end and how he would react if that happened. Don't get me wrong, McGregor would have blamed it on the other player, if he'd hit the ball from him, but he wouldn't be laughing. I just feel moments like that, to me, when we're talking about players that are maybe taking it too lightly, I don't know how laughter can be the reaction in this game, and it's 1-1 and we're pushing. We need a win. You should be relieved. You should be wiping your brow and getting on with it. Trust me, it's not a laughter moment. I don't think anyway. I think it sends the wrong message, stuff like that. And again, you contrast, you compare winners with, across another goal mouth, and I just don't see Alan McGregor, who've already won the league. If that was him, I don't think he'd have been laughing. I
don't think he would have been laughing. And as you say, the Rangers have had that mentality this season, and you do need that mentality. But you also, I'm going to say this, and I didn't like saying this, but I'm not going to go down this path. I want to see them with full stadiums and us close to them. I want to see if they've got the mentality then. It's okay playing glorified training games. That's fine. Yesterday was nothing but a glorified training game. But what happens if you make that mistake and you've got 40,000, 50,000 fans on your back? Or you've got a rabid away support and you haven't scored at New St Mirren Park after the first 15 minutes and the support start panicking because they hear that their rivals are 1-0 up. We've all been there. We've all been at games when that's actually happened and turned. It's like playing football at the moment is like playing football in a snow globe. You can shake it, but everything just falls back normally. There's nothing unusual. There's nothing emotional about the game. I mean, that was seen yesterday, where there was hardly any bad challenges that were. It came up. I mean, there was no bite in that game yesterday. Obviously, it's a dead rubber. So we're talking about the rebuild next season. The players, that's all we've spoken about on this podcast for weeks and weeks. So it's not hard to feel that the players are thinking the same. Moyes maybe already 100%. Imagine if that was Barkas laughing. And
that's brilliant. I'm gonna pick up on that because it was me that made the point. I just want to say I think that's actually a better comparison than the McGregor one, and I'll tell you why, because Barkas has been absolutely pilloried from pillar to post, slated for at the end of the day for not making a world class save. And I've said before, I think the difference is a top keeper. Okay, Barkas could argue he's not a chance with any of the goals, but a really good goalkeeper does save one of those group of efforts anyway. They just do. But he has been absolutely derided by, first and foremost, Celtic, by the way. the way he's been treated, in and out the team, out the squad 1 minute, then back in for 3 games, and not just dropped to the bench, out the squad again, things like that. I think if he was laughing right now, it would be a gif on Twitter.
It would be, definitely. I'm going to actually bring up a comment here that's just disappeared if Paul's there. Be Union 1872. Didn't ken who he supports. The nature of football is no crowd. Basically training, as you say, then adapt. Rangers have. I'm no disagreeing with that comment. Celtic haven't adapted to having no crowds there. Rangers have. I'm not disagreeing. The facts speak for themselves. 20 points speaks for themselves.
I think the point you were making is though that whilst that is spot on, football will be played in front of crowds though. 90 seasons out of 90 or 99 seasons out of 100, you know. So whilst Rangers have adapted to that better, but it's all about whether Rangers can then take that into doing it in front of crowds, because we all know via their captain in the programme notes that they couldn't. And they didn't like it. They didn't like the pressure from the crowds. So it is very interesting. We know Celtic can do it in front of a crowd, even though it's going to be a whole new team. Maybe it is irrelevant, but I mean, I think Rangers definitely have to prove they can adapt again. That's the only thing I would say. Whereas a lot of those Celtic players already have the proof in the pudding. They can do it in front of crowds. But a trophy always helps, and to be completely balanced. Winning that trophy can only give them confidence, that guys like James Tavernier can maybe hack it in front of a crowd,
It's a Celtic state of mind there. They can't be completely balanced. We can't have complete balance. Kevin Byrne reckons Union 1872 is a Hearts fan. Good shout, mate. That's a decent shout. Brian Watt, Barkas looks like he freezes in big moments, doesn't command his area. I don't think, I've said this plenty of times, and I don't think Barkas will. I don't think Barkas will get jettisoned next season. I don't think they'll get rid of Barkas next season, because we've spent a lot of money on him, and I want to see him. We wouldn't jettison a goalkeeper that we've spent £4 million on after a season. That's just my opinion, and he will get a chance to impress the new head coach when he comes in. So will Aiete. Yesterday, it looks like, to go back to what the tagline it is, it looks like John Kennedy has chucked the towel on Barkas and Aiete and Kamala. And we're going to see guys like Griffiths. We're going to see the substitutions that we saw yesterday coming on basically for now at the end of the season. What Kennedy wants to do is he's just basically going to carry on what Neil Lennon done, and hopefully the good players get us over the line. And I'm going to give him a smidgen benefit of the doubt here, a smidgen. We do actually look a bit more shape. We do actually look like we've got a bit more shape, and we do keep the ball better than what we did under Neil Lennon. But that's the only difference I see. We're no fitter, we're no quicker. We're still as powder puff in front of goal. In the last 2 games against Dundee United and Rangers, we've had 43 shots on goal, 20 on target, and we've only scored once.
Yep, I agree, and I think maybe the one thing you would like to think Kennedy's just maybe missing a wee bit as well is he elevating players before they go out? And we know about the coaching side of things, that players seem to be reacting more to just technical side of the game and getting mollycoddled and coached and stuff. But there's still a motivational part to do, and I am not convinced, unless, he's completely different behind closed doors, but the demeanour that Kennedy comes over, whether it be on the touchline or in interviews, is very level-headed, very controlled. And I'm not quite sure Brendan Rodgers was like that as well. Very levelled, very controlled. Had a degree in psychology, I think it was, or something like that. It was something along those lines anyway. So he knew how to do some Jedi mind tricks, man, you know what I mean? Whereas I don't think Kennedy's like that. And it's great coaching players through how you want them to set up, how you want them to play. But you also need to give them 120% belief. They need to be able to believe they're capable of more than what they probably are. And I'm not quite sure that those players go out there feeling, in fact, they didn't yesterday, because they didn't play like players that, to me, believed in themselves like they should. And I think that's what makes a great manager in the modern day. I think Mourinho's an amazing motivator. I think he's brilliant. I just think at times it's the modern way of playing that he I watched him do an 8-minute interview. I'm going off the tangent again, but when they got put out the Europa on Thursday, I watched his 8-minute interview and I thought, he is right in every single thing he says. But does the modern player agree with that? And I think Kennedy does the opposite, but he doesn't. I don't think he strikes me as someone who knows how to get the motivation levels up. And striking that balance in the modern game is very difficult. I'm not taking anything away.
Right, I'll take them. No, you didn't go down a rabbit hole there. That was actually a good segue. I think that's what it's called in this game, segues early. I watched Match of the Day. I watched Match, and it wasn't scripted either. I mean, if folk think this is scripted, man, I think they've got a problem.
It can't be what I'm on. They can't think that when I'm on.
What was I talking about? Match of the Day 2 last night. Yeah. Carlton Cole was on Match of the Day 2. We'll always have Carlton Cole's goal in Inverness. We'll always have that. I mean, totally. And these bad times, I always remember that goal in Inverness by the big man. One of the bizarrest goals I've ever seen in my life. What he basically says, there was an interview with Mourinho, and Mourinho was talking about he wanted players to dream. He wanted dreamers on the pitch and dreamers on his bench who they could achieve. And I can't remember what's it? Is it Chappers? Is that what Chris Mullins used to call him? Mark Chapman. He asked Carlton Cole if Jose Mourinho says that to you, what would you do? And Carlton Cole with that, I wouldn't be listening. So that was his answer. He went, I wouldn't be listening to what Jose was saying to me. So you'll have players in that dressing room. Because Mourinho says it that many times. It's not just wallpaper. So the players have switched off. That he's berated them and chucked them under the proverbial bus that many times. It is now just wallpaper. It doesn't mean anything. It's not having the desired effect. So
it says a lot about the modern player. I don't dispute what you're saying. That sounds probably bang on. It frustrates the life out of me, if I'm being honest to you. But
maybe it says more about Carlton Cole and what it does modern football players, right enough. But
no, I think he is. I think he's probably onto something there, Kev, to be fair. And that actually, it cheeses you off hearing that, because you just think, really, was that what it's came to? Because you've said it so many times. Maybe if you actually did your job, you wouldn't need to say it so many times. And I just feel that whoever it is that comes in to get back to, the point at hand here for Celtic's point of view, they're going to need to be someone who strikes, I think, particularly at a club like Celtic, because the need is so great when you're under this pressure. It's going to need to be someone that I don't think maybe Kennedy did yesterday, that does know how to G up the players and get them fired up, but without, hurting their little feelings and all that. Do you know what I mean? At the same time, and someone that can also take them on the training ground and lay out all the cones for them and tell them in 10 minutes you're going to play a 5-yard pass forward, and in the 12th minute you might try and win a header, and you'd be really brave if you did that, son. And we all believe that you can do it. So it's quite a difficult balancing act.
So you're basically shouting for Roy Keane to get the Celtic job then?
No. Martinez, mate, I'm telling you.
Martinez, is that what's Martinez's Man City connection? Has he got a Man City connection? Because everybody we seem to be linked with has got a Man City connection. Craig Hazel, hiya Craig, how are you? Has put in the comments, we could have had Joe Hart for hee-haw in the summer. Don't remember we all slagged Joe Hart when we could have had him.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I think for me, we talk about Barkas hasn't made a meaningful save this season. Joe Hart hasn't made a meaningful save in about 10 years, so no chance. Terrible. He would have been a disaster.
I'm just having a look to see if there's any more comments that we can go through.
He's saying any more good comments. That's basically what he's saying. Don't take it personally, lads.
Thomas McMahon, the Man City cartel depressing. Kieran Nolan, players need to take more ownership. Manager can only do so much. The players are lonely folk. Players are lonely folk that can get managers sacked. That's been that's been football over the back for years and years.
There has to be a leveler with that, though, just to quickly say as well, that pendulum has to start I don't know whether it's going to be wages that will end up coming down to dictate that. Not that I can see that happening. Or what the key variable is in that pendulum swinging again, where you get players playing for managers again, that know they're lucky to be where they are, as opposed to being far too aware of the power that they've got, and that if they muck up, it'll be the manager who loses his job, not them. Sad.
Mm-hmm. It is sad, but that's the way the cookie crumbles in this world, eh? Right, everybody, we've been on for an hour and 4 minutes, Russell. We never spoke about half the things I wrote down in my notes. So I'll just throw them behind my head. So what we'll actually do is, everybody subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Button down below. Me and Russell are going to be back tomorrow night for Scream of Celica, and I don't think we've chose our albums yet, but we're looking. We've actually moved forward in time. We're going to do a bit of share if I could turn back time, but we've actually went forward in time to 2011, and we're going to be talking about a game which probably saved Neil Lennon the first time round, and we'll be looking at maybe we'll go down a parallel universe. I like going down parallel universe. I like going down that. What happens if we didn't draw 3 each at Rugby Park that day?
Oh, yes.
Where would we be? What would have happened? That's a different take on it. We'll go down that. Feed the Bear comes in with Pink Floyd, please. Strangely enough, Dark Side of the Moon was in the album charts that week, for some bizarre reason. So we can talk about Dark Side of the Moon tomorrow night, Feed the Bear.
Let's do it. He's a regular viewer as well.
We'll maybe talk about that. We will talk about Dark Side of the Moon tomorrow night. So lads, everybody out there, stay safe. Hail, hail.